So 2 years ago, I was at this modular synthesizer event called Store, and I met a guy there called Eric/Surco, who is actually a teacher, and he teaches people how to do these modular live jamming situations on stage, kind of like a DJ environment in a club, you know, like where real people are dancing. Not like a concert, but with real dance floors dancing to techno. And since I met Surco, I learned so much from him. I had a chance to jam with him several times. And because he was on his way to Berlin to go perform, he passed through the Brussels classroom, and I had the chance to invite him here for an afternoon to do a 2-hour workshop on how to design a hardware live set to be able to improvise live techno. That workshop that happened in May is now available to you on the Underdog website. If you want to support my project or if you want to support Eric's project, you can buy it there for a pretty cheap price. Go have a look on the Underdog website for any more events that we're going to be doing here in the classroom or any online courses that might interest you. And that is literally all I wanted to say in this video. The rest of the video is a little free sample so that you can see what a good teacher Eric is. And now I'm going to take a little break because the first semester of the Underdog classroom was freaking amazing. I'm going to just take a breather, get some inspiration, and in September I'm going to be back full speed ahead, second semester of the Underdog classroom. I'll see you on the other side.
The two big questions I get more than anything, whether it's on my YouTube channel, whether it's in my courses, is transitions and end of chain processing. Those are the two things that everybody just bombards me with. What's your end of chain and how do you transition all the time? So we'll talk about both of those things today. So with transitions, it's kind of interesting. So we'll just build up something here. So this is kind of like what I was messing around with before we came in, but what my workflow normally is I will do a sound check with whatever I had from on my system for the last time. And then when I step up to play my show, or like when I finish sound check, before I step up to play my show, the very first thing that I do is I clear everything. So
Pre-disaster.
I pre-disaster everything. Yeah, and that's, we were talking about that once. That's kind of the way I look at it, is that I remember I got asked a question by Lucian, actually. He said, doesn't it stress you out that you don't have anything prepared? And my answer to him was, it stresses me out way more that I would prepare something and one thing could go wrong and then I have to improvise and I didn't know it was coming. And then I'm freaking out and everybody's looking at me and the sound is playing and I didn't know I was going to have to improvise and I have to start improvising right then. And then you stress out and everybody can see it on your face. Well, with this, the pre-disaster thing is I know as soon as I start that I have to start improvising. And so I can plan that when I step up. So if I know, for example, that I want to start off with a 4 on the floor kick, I can just put in a 4 on the floor kick and I can start that. And then I can bring in a 4 on the floor kick. So I know what it's going to be. Or if I wanted to start off with something a little bit more, I don't know, slower and more kind of dramatic, I can start off with like a slower, like a heartbeat with this is still at 140 BPM, but it sounds slower and it can kind of get things going. Then the next thing that I like to do is, with a mixer like this, and there's a few other mixers that do this as well, you can put your effects on pre-fader mode. So you don't have to have the fader up to send sound through your effect sends. And I use this a lot to create atmospheres because atmospheres are really important to the style of music that I do. So if I have, here, I'll just delete this out so you guys can see that I'm starting from 0. Let's say we just start with just a couple notes, randomly, whatever those notes are on this instrument. So then I can start to bring that sound in just on the effects. So you can see these faders are down right here, and these two voices right now have sound coming out. And what I'm doing there is starting to use the sounds that I'm going to use later to create the atmosphere that it goes with. So you were asking about key before and selecting a key. The key is a lot less important if you're making sounds out of the sounds that you're already using, because they're going to automatically go together. It doesn't matter. I don't need to know what note that is. I don't need to know what key that is, because I'm making the atmosphere with the sound that's going to come in later with the atmosphere. So I don't have to worry that is this an A and this is an F. So I can make sure that they go together. This way I'm recycling sounds so that way that they can all work together. And then when I start to bring in the actual sound, and you get the dry signal that comes in with it. So they're automatically gonna go together because the first atmospheric sound was made out of the other one. You know, and what's also cool with pre-fader is that, going back to the frequency thing again, if I have one that's set up as a low frequency or lower-ish frequency sound, so I can bring in those low frequencies pre-fader through a reverb. But then I want to kind of build that out into something that's more full spectrum. I can bring in instruments that I know are higher frequencies. So like, for example, if I wanted to bring in, if I bring in a hi-hat, it won't necessarily sound like a hi-hat because it's just the frequencies. So you can fill out the frequencies instead of having to create an atmosphere. What I was doing a lot before I started using this method was building atmospheres in as loops and playing them on a sampler. And then you have to worry about pitching them and making them work with what you're doing. But right now, because this is being made up of the sounds that I'm already going to be using, it's already, you know, they already for sure go together. I should let you know that the two effects ends that I have, one of them is a reverb, which is, let me take these out. This is the reverb just by itself with those sounds going through it. And the other one is a combination. So you can hear the reverb that's just that one reverb by itself. And if I bring in other sounds, they're all coming just through that reverb if I bring them in through the pre-fader. Now, if I take out the reverb, maybe we'll take that, and I just go through the multi-effects so you can kind of get an idea. I'll just do the hi-hats. You can hear this at first.
Is the under three?
No, this is Cosmic Debris,
Okay.
WMD. And so this is a delay and reverb combo that does really interesting stuff. One of the things I love about this, again, for playing live, is it has a kill so that you can, if you've got a big, huge thing that's going crazy with a whole bunch of things in there, and you just want it to reset, you can stop and it starts over again. So all of the delays, you can either have them fade out or you can have them stop, which is great performatively, because there's moments when you want things to change quickly and there's moments where you want things to overlap. So you have the choice of doing both, which is great. So that's the two effects ends, but using those again for creating atmospheres and kind of background stuff by recycling sounds. Go
How
ahead.
do you deal when you bring a song that's not working?
A sound that's not working?
Yeah, like you realize, okay, this is not good. How do you react?
So there's a couple different things. So one of the things, again, and this is maybe kind of the philosophical side of all of this stuff, but one of the things is that if you're improvising, if you're truly writing the music live in the moment, nothing can ever be a mistake by its nature, because the only way something can be wrong is if there was a right way that it was supposed to be, that was predetermined. So a lot of times I find that some of the more interesting, inspirational things that happen in a live performance are those things that you might think are wrong in the moment. And it'll be some weird thing that happens and that'll give you an idea. And that makes you move into that. So one of the things I always suggest for people is that when you have those weird moments, lean into them. Do something with it, make something happen with it. And the advice is to try to stay out of your own head, where your head is telling you it has to be this way, it has to have this sound, it has to be this way, in order to be right, in order to be this genre or this sound or this style, or I want to sound like this artist or whatever. The more you can get that totally out of your head, it's very liberating to be able to then be in a place where everything can be an idea generator. Everything can be a creative thing. Another way to look at that as well, I always refer back to this great interview that I saw once with Prince. And they were saying, you're one of the world's best guitar soloists, but you never make mistakes when you solo. And he laughed at the interviewer and he said, I make mistakes constantly when I solo, but the trick is to do it 3 more times in time and people think it's on purpose. And I do that 10 times per show, where I will bring in something, I'll have we'll get something like up and going here that's super fun sounding now. Just from the stuff we were making a minute ago. And then let's say I want to bring in my hi-hat. And when I bring in my hi-hat, oh, it's way too loud. So what I'll do is I'll do this. And then I'll bring it in the level that I want. So you can take that thing that was a mistake in the moment or was something like, oh, that wasn't what I expected. That wasn't the thing I thought it was going to be. Don't let it throw you, because the audience has no idea what you were thinking. They have no idea what it was supposed to sound like in your head. So for all they know, you did that thing and that weird, crazy, bizarre, weird thing. They're like, oh, that was the coolest thing. And they're like, what an inspired, creative moment. And you're like, yeah, I had no idea that was coming, right? And so it really doesn't matter. So the more you can get out of your head about it has to sound a certain way, the more liberating it is to play live, right? So as you can see, so this was just those things that I just built up before. And you can put something in here. I'm gonna take my gain back down on that to where it's supposed to be. So you can hear that. But now you've got kind of a basis of something that you can build up. And so now we'll talk a little bit about transitions.